Hello. My name's Anthony.
I'm Karen.
I'm here with Shaman, Karen, and I'm here because I wanted to do a interview about my time living with Karen, moving with Karen, learning from Karen, and also being healed by Karen. Um, so, some backstory. I was born in Duluth. I lived here all my life, northern Minnesota. I met Karen through a mutual friend. I believe it was April of 2016. And this is what we would call the gathering stage. So at this point, Karen was gathering information as to how to help and start the process of regenerating me. And so we met at a McDonald's. For me, it was not good circumstances at all. I had just gotten out of jail, and I was in the midst of a um, withdrawing process from street Xanax, which is a benzodiazepine anti-anxiety medication that has now been, um, I guess the best way to describe it would be being sold in the black market now through the use of Chinese alprazolam, which is a chemical in Xanax that provides anxiety relief. And so China's, shipping all these chemicals over. It's coming into the United States. I got introduced to it, and as somebody who suffered from anxiety and depression all of his life, of course, that was a perfect fit for me. No anxiety. So I got addicted to that. My life started unraveling as a result of that. And I found myself in jail and then out of jail. And a mutual friend encouraged me to meet with Karen, Shaman. And so, yeah, she gathered.
It was a free session,
Yeah, it was just a free kind of introduce herself
non-paid, just kind of help.
out of the kindness of her heart. And so we met at McDonald's, and she offered, some guidance. Karen is, I believe, 18 years in the legal system, so she has a huge amount of experience. Not criminal law, but she understands the law much better than I did as an 18-year-old. So she offered some guidance, as well as did a reading that turned out to be accurate 100%. It was a reading regarding my mother, who I don't have a relationship with at this moment.
Oh, that's right, the Columbia.
Yeah, and so she was. We were discussing my mother, and she did a reading, and she felt that she was from Cartagena, which she's actually from Barranquilla, but Barranquilla, Colombia is very close to Cartagena.
Yeah.
So she was extremely accurate.
Yeah, I did say it was on the offshoot of Cartagena, but yeah, outside of it, yeah.
Yeah, and so as somebody who never met my mom, just met me, I was blown away by that reading. And so from that moment, I knew that Karen was someone special. And at that point, I didn't see her for a period of time because I kind of was, just moving from place to place, doing drugs, not in a good spot, drinking, partying,
car accident,
etc. And so Karen and I lost contact with each other, and then regained connection while I was employed here in town in Cloquet at the Cloquet Wells Fargo. And she was coming in quite a bit, and we kept interacting, and I was always interested in what she had to offer, which was a new way of life. While I was struggling with drug addiction at that point. I would see Karen coming in, living a completely different life, and I was drawn to it.
Than almost anyone around
Yeah,
here.
yeah. No one was, coming in with a beautiful colored smoothie, or raw food. I remember she brought raw donuts for me at one point. And I tried it, and I was like, "Whoa, this is incredible! This is incredible! Wow!" Especially in northern Minnesota, lifelong resident. Um, Plant-based foods, raw foods, the idea of veganism, totally, I'm, not familiar to me. I was, eating steaks and Subway and ice cream. I standard American diet. I just didn't know any better. So Karen and I regained connection while I was employed at Wells Fargo, and then through those interactions there, we ended up discussing more and more and more, and I was like, yeah, I need to make a change from what I'm doing. Addicted to drugs. I'm partying. I'm rolling cars at 100 miles an hour. I'm getting tickets. I'm barely making it to work. Like not in a good spot. Not in a good spot.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, Karen, offered a different door, if you will, and I was like, "Yep, let's make it happen." And so it was March of, I believe,
I
2017.
don't know what the comments are.
Kim, and hi Madison,
But...
hi Winona, hi Kim. And so it was March of 2017. The decision was made for me to move in to where Karen lives here, and begin detoxing myself. Well, first, I guess the first thing that we started working on was getting my energy stabilized, which I definitely needed. Someone who's addicted to, I guess I would describe myself as a polysubstance addict. I wasn't, outside of Xanax, I wasn't addicted to one thing, but just more the act of just changing my consciousness. So I was, you name anything, I probably have done it. Outside of a few things. So as somebody who was doing a variety of different drugs and doing many different, a lot of partying, and when someone's doing a lot of drugs, partying, diet, exercise, sunlight, all things that people need in order to live, they not a priority. So my energy was not stabilized at all. A lot of brain fog, a lot of erratic behaviors. My hands would shake. My hands still do shake a little bit, but much better. And so when I first arrived, stabilization was crucial. And that came from a change in diet, as well as getting outside,
yeah,
and getting back in touch with nature.
Sleeping on
the floor,
yeah.
Getting sunlight, filtered water. Filtered water was, something I've heard about and saw the value in it, but it wasn't something I was actively doing prior to moving in. And Karen was like, "Yeah, you know what's in the water?" I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
Now I know what's in the water, and now I see the huge value in filtered water. So I was getting filtered water, which was huge for stabilizing. I was avoiding energy drinks and coffee and pop and stuff I was used to drinking. I was just drinking water. which is even that in itself offers a huge benefit. So I was getting filtered water. I was getting back in touch with nature. So moving with the dogs, and as well as walking long hours, picking up trash on the trail. Um, and did I get on any supplements at that time? Was I doing the magnesium?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was doing the magnesium at the time, which was huge as well. And then we started working on many projects, including some of the courses that you see. I helped put together those, and as well as the website. And through those experiences, I learned so much, and it's something that I don't take for granted, because there's not many people get this opportunity, and so I'm extremely grateful. So through working with those courses, I gained an understanding of mind-body medicine, which is something I don't hear about very at all outside of Karen. I've had a few injuries that required surgery, both on my right side. And this is just a small piece of mind-body medicine, but I'm able to understand how I drew those injuries to me through they're all both on my right side. So it has a lot to do with my relationship with males. And so through my experience with Karen, there's no doubt in my mind why I got those injuries, and why I drew those to me, as well as a host of other things that had happened to me that I created with my mind. I drew them to me. Without working with Karen, I would not have been able to understand that as I do now. But now moving forward, I'm very aware that my mind creates everything. So my mind is constantly attracting or avoiding or bringing things in my field. And
you talked a lot about loops.
Yeah, loops, and the loops in which there's even multi-generational loops that I now have an understanding of, dating back many different generations in my own family. I'm like, oh, okay, repeating that pattern, okay, not good, or hey, that's a good pattern to be repeating. I'm able to navigate that better than I think most 21-year-olds out there are able to. And I'm extremely grateful for that. So from, I would say, March of 2017, basically that whole summer of 2017 was spent stabilizing my energy as well as detoxifying. From at that point, I think 18 years of the standard American diet. So goodness, there was a lot of detoxing going on. I probably, what was it, like 40, 50 pounds?
Yeah.
I dropped, not dropped, but detoxed.
Released.
Those are pounds of pain. Karen, created that term, and now I'm like, yeah, totally, that totally makes sense. So I was stuffing myself, and as a result of that stuffing, I now had pounds of pain. And when you get on a plant-based diet, you detox. I was doing a lot of that. So I was spending 20, 30 minutes on the toilet and just pooping my guts out, basically, for months and months. And Karen held my hand through all that and encouraged me and supported me in that. And the mucus that was coming out. Oh my gosh, it was disgusting. It was pouring on my nose, and I don't.
This is where people learn the difference between catching a cold, catching the flu, or their allergies. And time and time again, I've helped clients and Anthony and many, many others with you didn't catch anything. The bacteria might have been the impetus that helped you to cause your own immune system to release and detoxify you, do what it's supposed to do so that you can continue to function. But people are just adamant and sure that they've got allergies. Every spring they've got allergies, they'll tell you. But oftentimes, it takes a little bit for people to really wrap their minds around you are allowing your own immune system to help you. And so lots and lots of nose blowing. And in the beginning, a person can feel as they stabilize, like, I feel worse. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah. Initially, I definitely felt worse, and I think had I not been living with someone as experienced as Karen was, I would have quit. I would have been like, nope. I need a steak.
This is why we need the center. Like, yeah. I need the center, I need the center, I need the center, because people need to have that hand holding. They need to have someone very, very experienced to supervise and guide them. Otherwise, they often will give up or they revert back.
Yeah, and I definitely would have had I not been moving with Karen as much as I am. And so in that kind of reinforces the need, if this is something that you're interested in, booking consultations with Karen is huge, because without that hand-holding of living with her, I would have quit. I would have been, nope, back to the standard American diet.
Yeah.
Too
easy to grab into the subway.
Right, and especially in northern Minnesota, I'm surrounded by temptation.
Meat and cheese.
Meat, cheese, steaks,
sugar, wheat.
You name it.
Mm-hmm. It's barbecues.
Tater tot hotdish. all sorts of things I was used to.
Yeah.
But those I now know are not life-giving foods. Most of them. And now I know what does give me life, and that's a whole food plant-based diet. There have been times where I certainly slipped off, but for the rest of my life, I know that is, if I want to be healthy, that is what I need to stick to. And so there were months and months of the physical detox, the physical stabilization of me. We haven't even gotten to the mental the mental side of it. My goodness, when I first arrived in March of 2017, I was a shell, if you will, of me. There was me in there, pieces of it, but I was hard to find. The drugs had really done a lot in terms of brain fog. I could barely concentrate. I could barely, formulate, coherent sentences of any effect, and I could barely accomplish tasks. It was rough. I was in rough shape when I first arrived.
A few speeding tickets.
Yeah, a few speeding. That was not good. And especially, the up and down. I was not, stable. There was not. I mean, people fluctuated for sure, naturally, but I was like super happy and then super depressed and super happy, super depressed, and there was just I was not stable at all. And that, that's something I'm still working on. I've came a long way from them through Karen's help. I still have anxiety. You can probably sense I have some anxiety about being on the camera right now, but it's just something I'm not familiar with. But I'm leaps and bounds from where I came from when I first arrived here. I couldn't even, the idea of me getting on a camera and discussing myself and some of my ailments that was not even in this world, if you will, in March of 2017. So
it's hard.
me being on this camera right now is a testimonial in itself of the progress that I've came. So yeah, there was a lot of moodiness, anger, frustration, a lot of crying, a lot of sadness, a lot of just a lot of feelings that go along with the physical detox. And again, if I wasn't in a situation where I was living with a medicine woman, I think I know I would have quit or reverted back to drugs or whatever. It wouldn't have been. I don't know what I would have done without Karen at the time. So I'm extremely grateful for everything. It's my goodness. I know I'm going to look back 30, 40 years from now, and I'm like, wow, that was a pivotal moment in my life. I made some changes, and I just know I'm going to look back at the time I've spent here for now coming up on 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, a little over 2.
As a pivotal moment in my life. I think if I can only guess. I can only hypothesize what would have transpired had I not moved in with Karen. But I have an idea of incarceration, death, drug overdose. It wouldn't have been pretty. And so I definitely cherish the opportunity that I got and was given. So with the post detox, now I would say I'm in the regeneration stage. I had early male pattern baldness, which I don't know about most guys, but me particularly, I was rather embarrassed about.
Some alopecia.
Yeah, I like my hair. It's beautiful. It's thick, and when it's not there, I'm a little concerned. And it was thinning, and I was losing it, and it was not good. And now I'm in a got lots of hair, but the haircut. But
yeah, nice, beautiful hair.
No baldness, thankfully. But yeah, it's I'm my skin, my nails, my mind. I've regenerated, and I'm going to continue to regenerate, and I'm immensely grateful. And I encourage I encourage anyone and everyone to book a session, because it changed my life. I'm not the man I was in March of 2017, and I'm extremely grateful for that. I'm the best version of myself that I think I've ever been, and it's only going to improve. And extremely grateful.
We also went to dog parks, and I'm not sure. I don't think you've been to a dog park before, but we went in the middle of winter, and it was so fun to see through someone's eyes, things that they had experienced for the first time. So here it was like the middle of winter, and here he was seeing, dogs playing with each other at the Jean Duluth Dog Park, where I often go.
Yeah.
And I had brought, Faya, who's 170-pound right now, Rottweiler, 31-inch neck, little 5-pound Pablo, and a 94-pound hybrid dog. And so German Shepherd mix. And so just seeing, how I animal communicate with, live with, sleep on the floor with, trust over training. For me, I'm not comfortable with dog training, with, sit, stay, command, commands, right? Or the word sound dog ownership, or that's my pet.
Mm.
I see a being in a different vehicle. This is my vehicle. It's a body, it is a physical human body, but they have a dog body and that's their vehicle. And the spirit inside of them is probably 2 ounces, the same as the spirit is inside of me. And this is something I've been teaching for 30, 40 years because it's something, it just naturally is something that I knew as a child because of living with dogs for so long. But we're, living in a world today where, your dog needs to be collared and licensed and vaccinated to the hilt and chemically treated and heartworm. If you're on Naturally with Karen on this page, you'll see I put 2 posts there last night that heartworm medication is not a preventative. It's not recommended. Neither is vaccinating, doing most of the vaccines besides what you absolutely have to do pursuant to the state. So Anthony had part of his life with a dog named Legolas. And Legolas, his family wanted to do all the right things, and for most people, 99% or so of people probably, the right thing is what the vet recommends, which is all the chemicals and all the vaccines, and the more the better, the more protected that you are. And so it's in the gathering phase, because I have a 4-part section, I went to McDonald's because, another friend that's a mutual friend, they're all around my son's age, had said, could you please help this person? He really got into trouble and there's a lot of problems. And sure, I'll go over on this kind of gray, dismal, March day. And I went over with my son to try and help just for free, not a paid session. Most of my work has been unpaid, so I have not made a lot of money. And a lot of people aren't willing to pay for coaching because they don't really know what kind of value they're going to receive. And I don't have the funds to start a center that I would like to do after 35 years of growing into being a very powerful, very highly experienced medicine woman in a world where we don't have them anymore. We don't have them on the Indian reservations. We don't really have them at all in the medical industry, in the allopathic industry. We have naturopaths. They serve a very different function. But we don't really have someone who looks at the spiritual, the physical, the mental, the mind, body, as an herbalist, someone with this many years as a massage therapist, who knows the animals and who cares about long-range sustainability. And so I asked Anthony if he'd be willing to do an interview and just share, the journey that he had living, with me for over 2 years and what that brought about, how he's able to correlate with his family. We sat together in an attempt to find his family and found some of his family on one side of his family. But he learned about the dog park and he learned about dogs, and especially going out on the trail, because I said, we'll go pay for some yoga classes, which he'd never done before. And those were really cool. I'll let him share about that. But I'm also a certified yoga teacher, Kemetic ancient Egyptian yoga, out of Chicago in 2015. But I've done yoga 25, 30 years. And I knew that a part of his medicine was opening up his hip flexors because they had really gotten locked down like a lot of people. That's why you see all these hip replacements, is because the hip flexors, between the eating of starch all the time and the bracing, the hips are symbolic in mind-body medicine for our closest relationships. And sometimes in the world today, the relationships with our mom, our dad, right? Mm-hmm. They can get really strained when we're teenagers and so forth. So our job as medicine people is not to sexualize these younger people, not to flirt with them, not to show them inappropriate behavior, but to help them with respect and manners and to bring about self-esteem and to help them to love themselves. And there's 3 or 4 times on that 2.5-year journey that I had to kind of bite a little bit like a parent would, like I told him today. Mm-hmm. With a toddler, you might give them a smack on the butt, or you might give them a redirection, or whatever you do to provide correction, depending on what's happening, right? Especially in light of the fact that our people have multiple generations of damage through chemicals, injections, and environmental toxins. The brain isn't always thinking right. Sometimes you got to snap somebody kind of back into the body, right? They're not leaving in enough time and they're racing out the door and then they're getting tickets or they could hurt someone. And you want to say, stop that right now, because that could potentially, you could run someone over and it could cost you sitting in a jail cell for the next 25 years. He's also seen things gone on with my family and an opiate addiction that were absolutely mind-blowing and that have caused a lot of severe changes and stressors in my own life. And we rode through a lot of those too, that no one plans on, right? He's seen addiction in his own family. He's had a dog in his family, a canine companion, I like to say. And it's really changed when you get to see, it's not spoiling dogs because you don't feed them dog food, kibble in a bag. It's actually feeding them according to their nature, right? Mm-hmm. None of us want to eat something dried and crunchy out of a bag. It's very convenient, and we might have to do it in a worst case scenario, but you don't have to do it all the time. So teaching about the animals and teaching about sustainability and teaching, like in the beginning when you show someone, factory farms are heinous and vile and violent. And we certainly don't want to support them any more than we have to, right? If we can give that up and not have all that urine and feces and excrement and antibiotics and everything that people are absorbing by eating these beings that are being treated this way in windowless buildings. It's not that we're a bleeding heart. It's that we're being mindful about what we're taking and what we're doing. And so on an everyday basis for over 35 years, I have taken people under my wing for a day, for a couple of hours, for a month, for a couple of months, 50 dogs that I've rescued, not because I'm a saint, but because it's the way of our people. And to build a world family and long-range sustainability is to think and to learn from our mistakes, our experiences, and to bring them. Anthony does not have a mother in his life right now, and I'm encouraging him to find his mother, right? Just like I found my father's father. He didn't know where his father was. He had no connection with him, right? I found my father's family, so my grandparent, his family, and started learning a great deal about them, which brings connection, as I'm doing for my own family member to find his father and reconnect with his father, because addiction stems from a prefix ADD. What is missing from your life that you're trying to add, right? What are we needing to add? Like heroin is to bring the hero within and save me from what has happened to me, from the pain that I'm suffering. Methamphetamine is to give me the amp because I'm out of energy. I don't have anything. I need to amp myself up.
With me, MDMA was the love I was missing. I was searching for love, and MDMA dumps all your serotonin. You feel a lot of love when you're on it.
It's an empathy drug, yeah.
So in my experience, I was looking for love.
So now it's like if you go and you connect with your parents, and your parents are 100% supporting the parents that you're watching. If your parents are in my age group, I'm 58 here just in the last week, and anytime there's something wrong, you run and get checked and treated. And I'm not bashing doctors, but my way as a medicine woman and a shaman, and those are two separate things that are very much go together. But becoming a medicine woman requires not only a great deal of study that comes from observation and listening, it is a study of life. You don't go out and buy a credential to be a shaman or a medicine woman. There aren't any shamans conferring shamanship, if you will. There are academics that are selling you shamanic practitioner certificates to hang in your walls. You will learn from the bodies of water that we call cold mother, as in Lake Superior, warm mother, Pacific Ocean, where I come from for 42 years, a much more warm, loving, but also very powerful mother. Bodies of water, because as I speak about, you are living waters, right? So what do you put in there? Are you putting alcohol in there? Are you putting cigarettes in there, cigars, black and mild? What are you doing? Because if your energy, your living waters are not stable, then you will seek to self-sabotage. You will procrastinate. When my own energy is unstable, helping my family with, through opioid addiction, which is such a big deal. It's epidemic, it's pandemic, like thyroid, right? Mm-hmm. By no mistake, this is by design, not just by the Sackler family, but it's by design overall, right? They know knowingly, it was knowingly done that people would addict to the limbic system. It would hijack the limbic system for people that have pain. And who has pain? Almost everyone. Almost every single person has pain, especially if you had a medicalized birth. We talked about cord clamping and stem cells and a whole gamut of things that you can talk about, excuse me, on a daily basis for 2.5 years. So we grew together, and I had an enormous gift myself, which was the beautiful website at naturallywithkaren.com that I've absolutely so fond of. And putting the courses, I think there's 7 courses on the website that we went out to locations and filmed, or, got on and did together. Mm-hmm. And, many times in the very, very beginning, when you're stabilizing, because gathering was at McDonald's, but gathering as well. And he's sitting at this very table that was outside in the front room, and I'm bringing a new dish. Here's chickpea fritters. Okay.
Every day for months, well, I was getting amazing food.
So he quit his job at Wells Fargo and stayed here and really kind of invested into learning and listening and healing himself all at the same time, with the goal that we're building a pack. We talked about pack life with the dogs, with us, with Zawa, with our family members, with his brother that he's discovered in Houston, right? Mm-hmm. Is to think outside of just the self, to think about the whole, right? And so in that, bringing the food is a loving gift that I can give, as he's bringing loving gifts to the website, so that the elder to the youngers are connected, and he learns the medicine, and he learns the word sound, and he learns the spiritual connection of connecting with mama, which is nature, to find his biological mama, and now with the medicine that he has, to be able to help her, to be able to help his father, to be able to help his dog, Legolas, to be able to help other community members, to be able to be in a more really grounded space when he goes to his job and he's helping other people with their vehicles, right? To be able to hear people is the gift of listening, not just to be in your headspace and so full of anxiety that you can't hear. Listen. You can't observe well, because if you observe well, you will see what people don't tell you with their words, what they're telling you with their body language, not just the crossing of the arms, but so much more. We were on the trail, it's in Scanlon, behind the Scanlon pumping station, and for many months, bringing plastic bags and walking out of there with 4 or 5 plastic bags with vodka bottles and matches and syringes and fast food wrappers from that little beach area that we'd collect, and all along the trail. So we'd be out there for about 2 hours. In the very, very beginning, he's like, I don't really want to go out there.
I was resistant and on some things, for sure.
The grass is up to your knees, but it's some of the healthiest we have ever looked before getting slammed with the opioid addiction and getting slammed with other family members' issues, right? Which is happening, right? Anxiety, high stress. But if you can get yourself to that space, and this is what I can do with the center, is to be able to get people out and walk every day, right? Mm-hmm. To do some meditation, even while you're out walking. You cannot be wearing earbuds, but just picking up garbage and being quiet, right? Many, many times I taught Anthony, as my grandmother taught me from 1965 forward, about the omens, the signs out in nature, what James Redfield in his Celestine book series talks about as synchronicities, right? And so we would go out, and on more than one occasion, a little snake would run across. And eventually I told him, I said, do you know what that means, right? The snake is extremely representative of the goddess. It has many meanings, but that is one of them. I said, there's a likelihood that you will be a shaman in your later years. No one's going to come and christen you or crown you or
baptize you or something.
Baptize you. Here you go, Anthony. You are a shaman. So many times when I get people that say, but you're white, I said, oh my goodness, that's right. I am. Right? I am in a white vehicle. I'm a very Afrocentric white, but I am in a white vehicle, and no one is going to come along right now in a wigwam and say, I'm going to confer upon you, a shaman. I've noticed you, because no one has moved with me for the last 35 years to know what I've done. So the only thing I can do is give it to you in videos, give it to you with testimonials, show it to you with the work that I do, the coaching that I do when we start off with the hair testing, which we're going to do a video about separately, is going to show you results like Anthony's here, which in July of 2018, so he had about a little over a year of cleansing and cleaning and detoxifying. He had an 8 out of an 8 on depression. He also had a little bit of hypoglycemia because of stimulating the insulin in his pancreas, and he had the fatigue, right? And why did he have those things? Is because the fatigue and the depression were all the way on a level 8. And so was my son, was actually pretty similar. And many, many, many people here in this area, I feel, because mercury has been released not only from what was Sappi, formerly known as Potlatch, but also Diamond Match Company was an industrial wood pulp extractor. So there was 2 heavy duty industrial polluters, and USG, which has done a lot of modifications like Sappi has, but you got to remember that for almost 100 years, this was sulfates, sulfites, and mercury, and many of the people are aware, and a lot of bleaching into our St. Louis River, to the point that the river is now declared a mercury hotspot. And so mercury is one of the first things that will shut down your thyroid. It will go into your brain. It will produce more anxiety. It's going to produce much more alcoholism in the Northland, including Duluth and up north on the range. It's going to produce higher levels of iron. Iron is going to rob your copper. Iron, you can have tons and tons and tons of iron.
I had the mercury.
And he had the mercury, as well. So even a little bit of mercury, because I can see he's got some mineral transport issues, which we're going to talk about on a different video on the hair test. Hair tissue mineral analysis page that I've recently opened, a separate page just for the hair testing, because it really needs its own page. People want information just about that. Maybe they don't want about, the variety of things I talk about on Naturally with Karen, and certainly not what's on my personal page. So I encourage you to link up with me here or connect with me here. But dogs and mind body and food and trying so many different foods. In fact, a lot of the foods that I was making are the pictures that are on the website, because we were snapping pictures of the food then. And there's so much more that I can add to that. Juicing, learning smoothies, plant-based spiral salads and zoodles and baked dishes.
I love me some zoodles.
Lots of soups, lots of different kinds of soups, watching chickpea soaking and making of chickpeas and using the aquafaba water as a binder in recipes like people use eggs.
I went to the plant-based cheesecake class too. And so I got the opportunity to do that. Like now I know how to make a nut crust.
And what he's talking about is I taught at Whole Foods in Duluth, and I've taught 14 classes through Carleton Community Education, if you ever want to verify, all with 5-star reviews. But Anthony filmed Thyroid Madness. I spent 5 hours on like a PowerPoint, a keynote slide, all on the mental and emotional aspects of thyroid imbalance, which again, if the mercury is going to shut down your thyroid, and you've got mercury coming out of your amalgam fillings, right? There's more than one person out there that's talking this, that's a scientist or a PhD in chemistry, that that is your root cause for schizophrenia. You see me do that post on there, but a lot of folks have parents and siblings and children, and they themselves. Don't be ashamed of that. get your hair test ordered. It's on $50 off for the hair test and the 30-minute consult for only $175. You're going to get a full report like Anthony's got here, all stapled. This one's a little bit bent. And I get a patient report to work on with you that has the health trends. You get an email copy. So it's going to give you, actually I just emailed now. So you're going to get an email copy and a consult for $175. And in that consult for 30 minutes, it's you and I talking through the computer like this, where I'm going to be able to go over your personal results and say, okay, this is what you've got going on. Here's how you're going to start to make it so much better and potentially to reverse it. No one can promise you a cure. I've lost 2 clients in my life to death when we gave it our best. And I told them, if you're, in this case, over 70, had been on medications and diagnosed with a pretty severe neurodegenerative disease, I cannot promise, but we're going to do our very best. And it hurts when you lose 2 clients, but 2 clients out of 35 years that have died while we were working together, meaning during the time that we were doing our best to unwind and unravel dis-ease, lack of ease, a disconnection, right? So mostly I see people with very high zinc. I see people with lots of excess toxic elements. I see people with sodium and potassium derangements, people that have believed to take calcium supplementation when in effect they were so low in calcium because their thyroid had started to pull it because they didn't know about eating seaweed. Now Anthony's tried Alaria and kelp and Irish moss and bladderwrack, and he's tried a wide range of seaweeds that come from a coast that's pristine, that's moderate level iodine. He's used iodine supplementation. He's aware. See, a lot of people talk about iodine and how it's great and everything, but I really know from years and years of experience that I don't want the majority of people to just start on iodine right away because they get mood disordered, they get really up and down, they get hot flashes, or they're freezing, they start to feel like they're going crazy, and it's not because of the iodine. It's that the iodine is a major detoxifier. It's a blood thinner. And so where doctors are giving you warfarin and Coumadin, I could have helped you to detoxify enough with your diet and your daily habits and getting you stable in your energy, and then we do that. So as I'm revising the 2nd edition of Detox and Heal Your Thyroid, I encourage you, if you buy the 1st edition, which is knocked down to $5 for my birthday sale as a digital download book, all you have to do is email me and say, can you send me the 2nd edition free when you have it done? I don't have it done as much as I'd love to have it done right now, not because I'm the world's biggest slacker, but because I've had a lot on my plate.
It's coming though. It's coming.
It's coming. And part of it is I really want to go into a little more detail, make it a lot easier to read. I want to be a better author for you and for me, right? So that I speak in a much more crystal clear way instead of it being too verbose and too wordy. These are all learning, just like he learned for 2.5 years.
Learned so much.
I don't get to make my first book be the best book in the world. So I've learned through my walks and observation and rereading my book and hearing people's feedback, all of which has been positive. Thank you. But I'm learning and I want to make it. I want to make it a better book. And so it's going to go into a new jacket because the woman's, the Photoshop or photo, whatever, the image that I selected of an anatomical correct woman without nipples with her breast was because so many women ended up with lumps, bumps, or cyst nodules and tumors. And breast cancer has a root cause of thyroid and diet, right? So, and lack of iodine. So I put her on the front cover, and that's not always acceptable to everyone. So I have a new cover design, probably about a year ago now. And it's going to go in the jacket. And the family member with opioid is going to stay alive, and Anthony's going to continue to help Legless and other people and help his family and find his mother. And we decided to do this as an interview, and we're also going to do one about hair testing so he can specifically focus on that so people can hear, his share. And I'm just so proud of him because it's really, really difficult to be judging of yourself and see yourself on a video when you don't feel perfect and when you have your own stressors and say, hey, this worked for me and I think I'm alive today and I'm functioning at a much higher level. He rode through the iodine and he came to me a couple times.
Not for the weak.
Because I wouldn't start him on the iodine for the first year. And I said, I'm not starting you on iodine. I cannot start you right now because most of the young people, I'm not saying him, but most of the young people in between 16 and 25 are telling me that they have suicidal ideation.
I was one of them.
It's in their music. It's in their depression. It's in them, the foods that they're choosing, the energy drinks, or to try to hurry up and give energy because I just don't have any, right? The sugar and the foods they're choosing, the big lump of dough at Subway. And then they're wondering, why do I feel so bad? You get up and, parents might be saying, you're going to break the toilet, because they're eating and eating because their body doesn't have them. I'm pointing to the hair test. Their body doesn't have the trace elements. And Dr. Watts taught me something. I'm going to always give respect to my elders where I got it. Dr. Watts said your trace elements, your nutritional minerals, and so on, are like the spark plugs for the body. No spark plugs, the car doesn't run. You don't have energy. You can't make ATP. You can't convert T4 to T3. I can go to the doctor down the street at Cloquet Memorial, Raider Clinic, Duluth at Essentia, or anywhere else and say, why am I a poor converter for my thyroid? How come I can't convert T4 to T3? Well, we don't know. Just some people are just poor converters. And I go, well, I know because I didn't feed my thyroid. If my thyroid doesn't have any iodine, it can't lose an iodine atom and convert from T3 to T4. So you see, none of this is rocket science, but I've had 35 years to study and study and study. And I don't break it down simple because people are dumb or they're stupid, but because their energy isn't stable because they've been duped. They've been duped to eat these food chemicals and food drugs, and they've been duped to take all these medications. And some of the medications you might need. I'm certainly not saying to get off your medications right now. I'm not. But instead of taking a pill and laying down and wondering why you're so racked with anxiety, stop eating your toast and watching your news and smoking your cigarette and get out and walk. Like, it's that simple. So having a coach is someone that isn't going, get out and do that. A coach is saying, hey, I care about you enough. I work for you. What can I do to make your life better? Here's what I see that we can do based on your test. If we start getting some zinc in your water, which is what we did for Anthony, he asked me about supplements in the beginning of the video. We started using zinc. Because instead of you just seeing people on Facebook talk about get your copper and drink out of your copper mug and wear your copper jewelry, not if you're high on zinc, high on copper. If you're high on copper, then what's going to happen is you're going to get too emotional. You're going to get really much more depressed and emotionally unstable. If you're too zinc, you're going to get way too checked out and very, very flat affect. Just, And so this up and down that you see is what doctors call bipolar. And if it goes on and on and on, and you go into a fast metabolism, you're going to go into schizophrenia. Does this make sense? So the mental health industry is real, except that there's something you can do about it instead of just take a magic pill and stuff the symptoms down and go on and on and on forever. There's something you can do about it, right? So, if you don't like something, don't cause it to degenerate you further and further. The lumps, bumps, cysts, nodules, and tumors, catch it when it's a cyst or a nodule before it becomes a tumor next to your pituitary, because a large segment of young people, from the glut of vaccination chemicals, from the way that they were raised, from rice cereal to baby formula to Pop-Tarts to Captain Crunch to Subway sandwiches to energy drinks today, they've had a lifetime of glazing over. That's what glazing over is. It means that eventually they're just like, okay, go, They'll take the Xanax bars that are now being pressed with fentanyl that are analogs being shipped out of China. They will take these things because they want relief from their pain, from their misery, from their lack of energy. And there's an industry out there ready to sell them things to self-destruct and destroy themselves. And I don't want that. These are our young people. They're our future. They're our forward generations. So medicine is about caring for people, but it's thinking about the sustainability of not just people, but also the animals and also the planet, right? Whether you see it as a sphere or a flat earth or whatever you see it, you need to care about the connection of the whole. So you're going to care about your word sound, your respect and your manners, right? And so we elders,
which I
duty.
I didn't do the best. I was not doing the best. I mean,
I had to bite 'em.
Madison may remember me from high school as not the most respectful of young men.
Yeah.
But through my experience here, I'm much more respectful.
Yeah.
And I look to elders in a much different way now. And I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah.
So grateful. And
so I think
I'm excited for the future. Whereas March of 2017, I was not looking forward to the future at all. So now I'm much more optimistic. And without Karen, I don't think any of this would have been possible.
And without Anthony, we would not have the website. We would not have me in the technology. We wouldn't have the courses done, right? I'm thankful that we were able to save Legolas, who, might have been, and save all of the pack. We also saved the life of the family member that was opioid addicted on many, many occasions. Anthony and I, woke up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, administered Narcan. It was very, very, very frightening. And I could not have gone through that myself as a medicine woman, even, because this is what's being introduced to our people, whether it's the females and I'm a witch, or, sexually violate me, take me, F me, we've got to learn to respect ourselves. And all the makeup and all the jewelry and all the clothing and all the, the performers and entertainers that you see are put on the stage for you so that you will gravitate to that, because they're not going to look like us. We've weathered through many, many, many storms, like the one I'm sharing with you about a close family member who's opioid addicted. We've weathered, these are storms in life, and storms are a part of the weather. They're a part of life, right? Whether it's your father, your mother, your brother, your canine companions, your landlord, your job, your coworkers are grating on your nerves. You're going to have to learn how to tolerate things, how to communicate, what's the best way to communicate. For me, I learned nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg when I worked at Waldorf in 2000. I learned cross-cultural communication from Lillian Roybal Rose in 1997. I learned word sound from Rastafari elders, and all of those are pieces I put together to make requests instead of demands. Sometimes with Zawa and Anthony, both of which are, like my sons, I'm able to say, knock it off, guys, or that's enough, or slow it down, or pick that up, or, that's what moms do. And so moms aren't always just, as much as we like to just be gentle, we also have to bite sometimes. Because the schools are institutions, which I believe Anthony understands now, which take our children and fashion them as a weapon used against us, so that they see us as being so out there and so different. Or, well, why don't you go to the doctor? Well, why don't you go take your dog and get all the shots at the vet? Well, why don't you just go get a job and make your life easier? Well, because I'm out working and I'm not getting paid for it for 25 years.
Karen's always working.
I'm getting paid when I'm massaging people and when I'm doing the coaching and the hair tissue testing, right? But none of us that have done this type of work and continued, most of us, that if you were meant to be a shaman and you're listening to this, or you were meant to be a medicine man or a woman, the matrix or the system has forced you to go out because you can't eat, you can't pay for your internet, you've got property taxes, you've got tabs, you've got car repairs, there's always something else broken on the car. Well, there's always something else broken on the house, and there's always another shot for the dog. And so to keep you so occupied with paying and paying and paying will cause you to just shake like Anthony did for a time, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have money. I've got to go get a job. I've got to go get a job, right? And so you can make it, but it requires an enormous leap of faith to live an extremely counterculture lifestyle, to make ends meet, to learn how to make something. I can whip up a meal now for us, for myself, for the dogs, out of something that looks like almost nothing, right? Someone gave me a box of macaroni and cheese, and someone gave me, some meat, and next thing you know, I'm whipping up something for 3 or 4 dogs, right? Or we've got chickpea flour, and we've got this, and we've got that. I've lived in situations where I've had so much wealth and money and beautiful space, and living in Santa Cruz, and driving a beautiful car, and credit cards galore to go buy whatever I wanted to buy. And I've also lived in a space for many, many years of being self-employed, when there's maybe 2 people on my calendar for the next month, and go with the flow and anticipate that as I keep going out there and giving to, the Devons, the Anthonys, the Zawas, the Charles, and all the different people in the world, that I too am going to be given back to. And it's for that reason that I have full faith, trust, credit, and respect in the energy that will manifest to create my being mobile and giving live talks instead of sitting in a room, and having a center where at first maybe 4 or 6 people can come and sleep on a simple bed or on the floor if we have to, right? And have the food and have it be a quiet space where people can stabilize their energy. I can do the gathering with them. I can gather what I need to gather, formulate a plan on a computer so we can change the plan as needed, right? Meaning supplements, what is going on with the hair testing, what's going on with what they've been diagnosed with. I mean, a complete mind-body, comprehensive, allopathic or naturopathic or integrative, everything together, which will take me several hours depending on the extent and the age of the person, and stabilizing the person so that they're out of their home or anything triggering, traumatizing, destabilizing. Stabilize that person with the walks, the juices, the food, putting together the plan, being away from triggering events. Detoxification is step number 3. So cleaning out the liver, mobilizing and excreting, depending on what, because tissue mineral analysis works oftentimes like your copper levels, which are ideally at 2.5 milligrams, are based on copper levels in your liver. So what's being stored in the liver is going to show on that tissue. So then regeneration. So then the person can go out. They've seen the preparation of food. They've done the daily habits. They're secure for as long as they can afford to come and pay. Right now we're in a money culture. I hope that's not the case always in my lifetime, but it is what it is right now. I need an angel investor to get going in the motorhome, to get going on the center, so I can show you. I've got testimonials. I've got video testimonials. That's why Anthony is stepping up. He wants to help.
Oh, yeah.
You need that center because it could be you. It could be your child. It could be anyone. And what are you going to do? You hear us talking. You know all about alkaline. You know about detoxification, but have you actually done it, right? I've got years and years of helping people through the iodine and through the various things, introducing them to the seaweed into their food, the sea veggies, and the whole package is what helps a person to get to step 4, which is regeneration. Then they can go off and they can be a seed thought and open their own center. They can go help their own family, their own canine companions, and we can build from there being a model worthy of imitation. I want to thank you for joining us. I really want to thank Anthony for, coming and doing this interview because, it's not easy to put your face on the screen. We can always criticize ourselves and sabotage and feel inferior. I don't feel like I have my beautiful dreadlocks and my face is a little puffy. We're going through stressors in life and we want to change that. We want to make things better. So it's very difficult to be perfect in the system, in the matrix, but we're going to do the best that we can. So I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for everything that you've done, and
likewise, thank you.
I
give thanks.
I'm most excited for others to feel what I've felt, to experience what I've experienced. because it was impossible for me to comprehend, like March of 2017, what was going to transpire. I couldn't, I had no idea. And now experiencing it, I'm just, everyone needs to experience it. There's nothing
Yeah.
else really to it. I mean, it's something that, there's everyone really needs to. And I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to have experienced, detoxification and regeneration. And, I hope to, go out and show others and encourage others. And I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah.
And anyone who's watching, any questions for me at all, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll hang out for a little bit here.
Is there any questions there?
I'm not really seeing it. It looks like there's
Okay.
a couple people on, but
Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Or if you have any questions and you watch this later, it's a Monday and a lot of people are going to be, at work or at school doing different things that we're doing, starting off the new the week. So if you have questions later, you can always write them down if you're watching this later. I know it was extremely long, but this particular video really warranted that. It was a little over two years.
I learned so much. So there was, and there's so much that, is not included too, that, I experienced. It's impossible just to distill it into an hour-long, interview.
Got on the African drum at least once.
A couple of times.
I
mean, I wouldn't say I'm good, but I've experienced it.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Trips to the cities.
Yeah. Samosas. Oh my gosh.
You get to try African food, samosas.
Yeah. And, living up in northern Minnesota, there's very few Afrocentric people. And so it was such an amazing experience to move with someone who is Afrocentric. And I now am so appreciative of African culture, and I value it so much. And I'm like, oh, their food, everything, it's amazing.
Oh.
And it's, I would never have known. I think back, I probably would never have had an interest.
He even got a dashiki.
You got a dashiki. It's very cool.
He got a dashiki. We went over to the Somali Mall, although we went on Ramadan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, it's amazing. So grateful. But take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate, all the love and support. And somebody said something there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is something we wanted to do, and there was kind of a lot of stuff going on. It's summer, and if you live in Northeast Minnesota, it's like, man, you got to make hay when the sun is shining out here, because we got about 3 months, June, July, and August. And June was really kind of off and on and rainy, and now we've got a couple more days that are kind of rainy. But when the sun is out and you're not having to do something that you're scheduled for, we're all scheduled for things. We're outside, and so, or we're helping family members with things. And I really appreciate the gift of Anthony's time to set aside some time just to sit down. And it's nerve-wracking to think about putting your face and talking about your personal things, but I'm just so thankful and so blessed that he was here to join us and to share with you. He's 21 now, right? He's a Pisces. Mm-hmm. So we also talked a little bit about astrology too. So he's a Pisces, and he knows he's the most intuitive of the zodiac. And he knows he's a water element. And he's on his way to finding, if he hasn't already, his spirit animal. We've talked about that I'm a wolf spirit shaman. That's why I'm very connected with canines, right? And so not once, but more than once, we had snake come right across our path, or walk right across, a black snake at first. They were black snakes. And so, watching these and the different hawks, and there was a couple of very interesting birds that came out that you said we don't see very often, about 1.5 years ago.
Sandhill cranes.
Sandhill cranes.
That was somewhat rare up here. So we saw those.
Oh yeah, we saw those at Scanlon too. So
woodpeckers, all sorts of interesting things.
So we tried lots and lots of different food. We had Thai food. We went to Mercado and had some really good Mexican food. And
never had tamales either. I'm half Colombian, and that's it's pretty scary to say that I have never had a tamale before. So I got to experience that with Karen. It's an experience I'll cherish forever, for sure.
And I think it opens up because Anthony got to fly out and see his family in Houston, which was just like a huge joy for me. Like, oh my gosh, you're going to connect with your blood family, that he hadn't seen, some of them he'd never met. And, having had those experiences where he'd been to Mercado and so forth, I think was a really good source of comfort. So he didn't feel like he was quite so green, right?
Yeah. I was around Spanish-speaking people, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah. Well, a lot of folks that maybe it was a couple days or a couple months that were Zawa's friends, over time, they hadn't they hadn't really been around Black people at all. They hadn't been around African people.
Me included.
And so if I bring them to the Washington Center to go play pool, with the lots of other youth, Black youth, immediately I could feel this guarded and really, and I was like, hey, it's okay, just breathe. Like, people are people, and I want you to learn to commingle. Like, I'm really big on ethical relations and ethnic relations and feeling comfortable in the skin that you're in. So I move around a lot of different people every single day. I'm meeting Justine over here, and I met an African woman at Whole Foods just 2 days ago with breast cancer and was talking with her. But I'm extremely comfortable with different economic classes as the system makes it in the world. So where a lot of people would be very, very uncomfortable to go to what a lot of people call the ghetto or the hood, I'm like in and out of there, as Anthony will tell you. Yeah. And I know people from all walks of life, whether it's the most staunch, classist boardroom where I used to work in law to, I've got my dreadlocks and they're piled on top of my head that I've just cut off recently. And I'm in areas of St. Paul that I think a lot of people wouldn't go to, or, areas in Minneapolis. We went to North Minneapolis and went to meetings. And I think a lot of people, white people especially, in a white vehicle would be really intimidated by. But because of coming from Oakland and being born in San Francisco and, putting myself out there, going to Mexico on my own in different places, I'm over that. I've dealt with the richest to the people that are the most financially impoverished, and giving in homeless shelters and bringing food and body butters as we did and different things. People are people, and we want to connect people and heal people and get them strong as soon as possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to say so long.
Adios.
Adios.